Well, we just got in the background, right, so.
I'm very sure it's in the background. We're all so really dark. She's wearing red.
Oh, I'm one of the bright.
Did everybody get one of these? Did everybody get one of these already?
Not as bright as Jim, but, my red's pretty good.
No, this is regular. It's not for the first time. No, it's actually probably closer to 10. Like in Texas,
Still hoping to come back with the ball.
Don't forget to silence your cell phones if you have not already. And you're going to have to just come in just a little bit or make 2 rows like Tina. And y'all can step up forward just a little bit. Yeah, and then James is very taller. Chief, I think, can you stand
one over there?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you.
I need a prettier face right now.
You smell good.
I'll get back here.
Oh yeah, Lorelai. I haven't even seen her yet.
Come and judge. Mary, shut that door.
Yes, sir.
Good morning. I have prepared remarks, but I'd rather speak from my mind and my heart about the presentation of this balanced budget for 26. This day is one of the reasons I ran for mayor, to have this responsibility and represent 2.3 million Houstonians and take in consideration the 700,000 that will travel to Houston today to work and attend events. They will be provided services by the city of Houston. When I was asked to run for mayor, I listened to Houstonians trying to decide, did I want to stay in the legislature where I was being effective, making a difference, but for Houstonians asking me to accept this responsibility that we're going to discuss today, I'd be on the Senate floor this morning. But I listened to Houstonians about their concerns. And I don't think we can discuss how we're going forward this morning, which is our reason for presenting this balanced budget, without discussing a little history. When I was running, the highest concern across Houston was public safety. Our police department was short of officers. Our fire department was severely understaffed to the point of being dangerous. We were not able to fill a cadet class. Today, this budget addresses that. Our budget is $7 billion, including all revenues. $3 billion out of our general fund. 60% of that goes to public safety. That's what Houstonians asked me to make as our highest priority. And let me just suggest, when I got here, we were facing a fire union lawsuit that had been going for 8 years, fixing to go to court with huge financial exposure. We resolved that lawsuit, and now the recruitment and cadet classes are at an all-time high. A waiting list to go to work for Houston Fire. In this last year, we successfully settled a contract with our municipal employees, who we so appreciate. In the middle of all these financial challenges, we were presented with the challenge of 260,000 suspended HBD cases. Now think about that. Remember, the number one concern of the public, why they asked me to run, is chairman of criminal justice in the Senate, come back and help us improve public safety. The second month I was on the job, 260,000 suspended cases. Many were assault, one-on-one. That's no longer the case. We had a contract we had to negotiate with HPOU. It's being voted on today by its members. It's already working. Over the weekend, we're getting scores of calls from deputy sheriffs, constables, other departments that want to do lateral hiring. So we're going to improve public safety with the new contract that's being voted on and will be before council very soon. In fact, is part of this presentation today. A police employee contract. Infrastructure was right there in the top priorities. This budget will spend almost $500 million on drainage and street repairs, highest in anyone's memory. Thank you to Public Works and Randy for their presentation. Quality of life issues was a concern across Houston. Illegal dumping, garbage pickup. Last week on the agenda, we bought 30 garbage trucks. Previous administrations were buying huge garbage trucks that stayed in the shop. We're improving solid waste. It's a top priority. Other quality of life issues like our parks, health department. This budget reflects the services that Houstonians expect and deserve. But let's talk about today. One of the concerns on the campaign trail was, what are you going to do about city finances? Much had been written about it. You know, we've had a structural deficit as long as anyone can remember. Bob Lanier, who goes down as a great mayor, got $500 million from Metro to help operate city government. Most of it he put in police overtime. Coming forward, mayors, most of my friends, I watched, learned from them. I've worked with 7 mayors. They dealt with structural deficit, first of all, without being candid and transparent, which we're doing today. They sold properties to pay for operations. They laid off over 1,000 employees. Just a 2-week notice. They used federal funding for operations. One-time federal funding. So this is a special day for me as a public servant to do what Houstonians deserve. Be transparent, tell them that we've done everything we can to provide city services through efficiency, eliminating waste, duplication, conflicts of interest, and even corruption. Let me just say that it's been very frustrating for over a year to hear my critics say, how are you going to pay for it? Pay for what? The old model? The old model of a city that has more employees than any other major city per capita? An old city, the old model? One had 1,700 people working at home. An old model that had 2,800 people eligible for retirement many ready for retirement. So I have a great team, and thank you for the city council members that are here to show their interest and commitment to the city of Houston. So we knew we had challenges. And our critics kept saying, how are you going to pay for it? We knew we had a plan. I've got some of the most competent people ever serving in city government. Melissa, best financial director in America. I could go through my chief of staff, Stephen, Cynthia, every department head. So proud of my fire and police chief. We all are committed to this great city. And let me, before I go into the budget, say we have a great city, great people, but we have challenges like all major cities have. The difference is we're meeting our challenges in every department. Yes, we're reorganizing city government. This is the first budget that's going to be less amount than the previous year, with the exception when the city got COVID funding, federal funding. They used that instead of the revenue stream that the structural deficit presented. So today, we first needed professional assessment. How could we be more efficient? How can we have a balanced budget in a city this size? Nowhere in America is a major city asked Ernst & Young or someone comparable to come in and look for efficiencies, savings, and don't compromise services, because the savings are going into the services. Let me just give an example. Some of y'all make an issue about HPD losing civilian employees. Oh, that's going to require patrolmen off the street to serve in the civilian jobs. Wrong. We're increasing patrol. Closing the property room itself put 60 more officers on the street. What we've done through efficiencies is bring their human resources department from HPD and let the city provide that service. Their IT department at HPD now will be done by the city of Houston. Look at this budget and the efficiencies, common sense, elimination of waste, and yes, we don't tolerate conflicts of interest in my administration. So today we're presenting a budget that focuses on those challenges. We're being very transparent with citizens about we're meeting our challenges. And I will also emphasize we're not through. We will be implementing the reorganization of this city government as we go forward. We'll continue to collaborate with other levels of government, but we will also make certain that we listen to Houstonians. We will be having discussions across Houston about this great city, what our challenges are going forward, but a budget that has been so well thought of, making public safety the highest priority. Randy could come up here and tell you where we're putting almost $500 million into drainage. This morning we have 1,000 broken water mains. 6 months ago it was 1,900. I live in Houston. I know why I ran for mayor. That's unacceptable. But it's from years of neglect. It didn't get like this overnight. It's going to take years of attention. It'll take 8 years at least. And I look forward to leading this great city because we have great people. I could start telling you why I think we're so great. Our institutions, like the Med Center, our port, our academic institutions, our faith-based, our philanthropic. Here's our challenge that this budget speaks to. Moves us in the right direction. If we can get city government functioning at the level that Houstonians expect and deserve, nothing will hold Houston back. We've been discovered by the world. People are moving here at an all-time rate. Some of those 700,000 that come to work each day in Houston, we want to invite them to look at this presentation and our commitment to quality of life issues. We want you to live in Houston, not just work here. With that said, I will yield to questions. The budget speaks for itself. We have a lot of work to do. We will start a dialogue with council tomorrow. They will do their job. And I look forward to Houstonians recognizing we're certainly moving in the right direction.
Mayor, I know one of the biggest storylines this year was...
You know what?
One of the biggest storylines this year with the city finances has been the budget deficit. Can you tell us what that looks like right now?
There is no deficit as I talked to you today. The 26 is balanced and no deficit.
And how did you guys accomplish that?
Through efficiencies, eliminating waste, duplication, reorganization of city departments, cost-saving measures. How about the retirees? We very compassionately offered our retirees, the employees, 2,800 that are eligible, a very compassionate incentive program, certainly when it comes to their health care costs. $1,050, that'll save us $100 million going forward in 26. And I was down last Thursday watching the process. They were so happy. They're so pleased. So how do we do it? We allowed folks to retire with an incentive package, which included health care. 37% of those eligible retired. Our goal was 25%. We're saving $100 million. So just being smart, listening to my departments, directors, and the rank and file. I'm very close to municipal employees. The morale has never been higher, not only in police and fire, but in city employees. I talk to them. They're excited about working for the city of Houston. So how do we do it? I just told you another significant one. We're merging some departments such as HPD, Human Resources, and IT, coming to city responsibility. So it's really transformative to city government. Never been done anywhere in the nation, and certainly not across the state of Texas. I've been in public service my entire adult life, serving on the Finance Committee in the Senate when the state had a deficit in 2011. State did across the board 10% cut. I don't like that because some departments get cut with a 10% across the board that shouldn't be. So we were very methodical about what we did. I can't say enough about my team. They get the credit. And the employee groups. People are excited to work for the city of Houston to help the city be successful. This is not about me. You know, I wasn't looking for a political job when I left the Senate to run for mayor. It was to fix Houston. That's the only reason I stand before you. Fix Houston. I'm working 7/24. Can't work any harder or be more transparent. We do not tolerate conflicts of interest, corruption. We don't give contracts to non-existing businesses, per the water department before I got here. So I'm very pleased to be the mayor. People say, are you having fun? No, I'm not having fun. But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. This is what I've spent my life doing. Fix Houston. And we're headed in the right direction. As I just said, if we can get city government functioning at the levels that it should, nothing will hold Houston back.
I know another issue that came up too was overtime pay to employees, particularly in fire, police, and solid waste. And I know historically that had been paid for using ARPA dollars, which are now, like, we can't use those anymore, right? But I was curious.
Well, that's always been the
Yeah,
practice.
but how has this year's budget addressed that issue with overtime pay?
Well, what it's going to do is improve recruiting and retention. Like I said, people are burning up the department's phones, personal contacts. We are already planning a lateral hiring class at HPD, which has been prohibited before I got here. So I'd be glad to let the chief speak to that. But the bottom line is we're understaffed, probably by about 1,200. It's a national problem of recruiting and retaining people in law enforcement. We were losing hundreds of officers to other agencies. We weren't getting the recruiting like we need, speaking to your overtime, which other previous administrations all implemented. Solid waste as well. Remember, I just told you, the previous model was buy used trucks. We don't buy used things around here. And we have accountability. I've got a new solid waste director in the last month. So we're being more efficient. We're getting rid of waste and duplication. We're running it like Houstonians deserve. So yes, the surges, let me speak to that overtime. I go on surges, that's Friday and Saturday night, focus on certain hot spots across the city. We've identified about 7 that need a constant attention. So that does require overtime. But that's what the Houstonians are asking us to use their resources and their taxes for. Go down Emancipation Street and look how we enforce our sound ordinances like never before. On-street parking in front of residences. Permits. We shut down a bar on Washington last week with the TABC, City Health Department, and HPD. They didn't have their permits. We don't tolerate it. We're looking out for quality of life issues. So yes, we will use overtime if it means quality of life for our neighborhoods. But with the new recruitment, hopefully soon we're going to have a properly staffed fire and police.
Does this budget anticipate getting additional funding with the legislation proposal in Austin from the tollway?
Not $1. Not $1 of this budget anticipates any revenue from Austin. Having been 50 years there, I know that you cannot rely on the results of the legislature until you see them. But we're in communication. That was not my legislation. That was brought about by 2 Harris County legislators after listening to the media cover how the surplus was being used. So the legislation really is about an audit and how you define mobility. And then they realize if they've got that kind of surplus and we provide them first responders, let's let the city of Houston benefit from some of that surplus. We gave them information and facts, and they have it on their desks now. But no, this does not depend on resources from the legislature.
Mayor, could you go into some more detail about the efficiencies? Some of the function groups have been slashed by 10 million or more. You say services won't be reduced, so can you give some specific details about the efficiencies?
Well, I've given you several examples, certain where we've merged responsibility of different departments to be not duplicated by the city of Houston. Police continues to come to my mind because they had a whole human resources department. We have a very effective human resources department. Solid waste, efficiencies by having additional new trucks. But let me yield to Melissa because she's the expert.
Hi, good morning. So we're going to go into very deep detail on all of that at the Budget and Fiscal Affairs Committee tomorrow. But just to highlight a few of the items, one of the findings from the Ernst & Young study was the category management project, which looks at how we're going to reprocure items and goods and services across the city, bringing multiple contracts into one, using better buying power for the bulk of goods and services that we procure. So you see that is baked into this budget. So that's a big part of it. That's going to be an initiative. City Council approved another piece of the Ernst & Young contract to help start off implementing that, so that'll be work that's ongoing throughout the fiscal year. And you see that partially reflected in this budget, with more savings to come in the out years as more of those contracts are renegotiated. So that's a big part of it. And then some other things that we've already talked about and implemented, the mayor talked about the IT and the HR. We're also consolidating finance functions throughout the city. We're also consolidating the contact centers for the 311 between multiple departments. Code enforcement is being consolidated so that they can be more efficient and cross-trained in all the different areas. So those are some of the items, and we'll highlight many more tomorrow.
Melissa, maybe you can talk to us about it. We reported a few weeks ago that the federal government is calling back $42 million to the health department of that $12 million including personnel. Does that play a role in this upcoming budget proposal?
So Mayor, do you want to talk about
Sure,
the
sure.
federal
We're
grants?
monitoring that, working with the health director. There's a lot of turmoil coming out of Washington. It is what it is, but we're prepared to react. Back to cost savings, better utilization of our employees. The Ernst Young report showed that 40% of our supervisors supervise 3 or fewer people. So what we're doing is collaborating. The directors know the reorganization is a serious matter. We've met as a group, certainly individually, so they're looking at their department, how they can better utilize their employees. But certainly we will monitor and measure the impact of the federal government's grants, whether it's health department, public safety, or certainly public works.
Mayor, last year, downstairs in the more spacious ballroom, you said everything's on the table.
Sure.
When it comes moving forward for future proposals, including trash fees, including increasing taxes. Will Houstonians see any of that stuff? And were you truly able to not implement that stuff this time around because of efficiencies and people retiring from the city?
Good question. First of all, I live in Houston. I've worked with previous mayors. And it would be wrong for me to say, oh, we're not going to allow Houstonians to consider a garbage fee or other matters. My responsibility is to balance the budget and provide services. We've gone through the services or the priorities. So I did make a commitment, because having been in government and worked with the city and a resident, I knew there was waste, duplication, actually some corruption, and probably much conflicts of interest. So I made that commitment, and I still have that commitment on the table. But what will happen going forward, we will talk to Houstonians about what type of city do you want to live in? BARC provides a great service. We all love our animals. Animal welfare is a priority for most of us. They're only answering 54% of their code 1s. That means we have a dangerous dog in a neighborhood. 54% of those calls are answered. So I'm going to talk to Houstonians, and we're going to give them options. I will work with council. We're all in this together. So certainly everything's on the table. It would be wrong for me to make that decision on behalf of council and our Houstonians. It's just being transparent about the quality of life in Houston. I bet you not a one of you, and most Houstonians don't realize if you've got a dangerous dog, we just can't get there. Fire hydrants. I go to a 3-alarm fire, 2 of the hydrants weren't working. Now we found out that was a little misleading because it actually been replaced. But we have a lot to do to fix Houston. And that's the reason I get up every day fired up. In fact, I'm fired up right now. I look forward when y'all go do your job, I'll go back in there and go to work. So yes, everything's on the table. How could I not allow Houstonians to speak to their elected officials, starting, with their mayor? They will help us make that decision.
And going on public safety, last year in your proposal, you had called for 200 additional police officers. Looking at the numbers from last month, there are still the same number of officers. You're still 1,200 short. Why are you so confident that the new deal you just signed will change that? And can you guarantee when you lay out the proposal next year, you will in fact increase?
Well, first of all, we have increased by 200 coming out of the cadet last year. The real problem we were facing, and it's been addressed in this new contract, is retention. We were, as quickly as we were adding cadets, we were losing veterans to the surrounding jurisdictions. Austin was the top pay for law enforcement officers. Now we're ahead of them. Fort Worth was ahead of, I can go on and on. So we were putting people through the academy and losing them, and let the chief speak with specificity. People were coming out of cadet and staying 3 to 5 years and going to Baytown, Pasadena, you name it. People want to work for HPD. If you're calling as law enforcement, you want to be in the largest city with the best. Everybody wants to work for Chief Diaz, no doubt about it. Morale is high. And he holds his officers accountable, but he also uses some common sense. He uses violations as a learning experience. I'll let him speak for himself. But why do we think it'll be better? There's no guarantees. You know better than that. You can't guarantee me where you'll be next year. But anyway, the bottom line is, in 72 hours, we're having the constables say they're concerned about losing their officers. We've had over 100 deputy sheriffs contact us. The chief, where is Chief? Yeah. Come up here and talk about the lateral hiring that hasn't been used by HPD. So what we're doing is we're letting officers know we want them, we want to retain them, and the vote is going on, and it is working. Chief?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
In terms of the staffing?
Sure. That was a great question. We have filled over 200 cadets in the first year that the mayor's been in office. But like you said, the attrition rate, because a lot of times in the past administrations didn't have recruit schools, so that's caught up to us. So the people that are retiring, we're ahead of it, but we're just slightly ahead of the attrition rate. If you have been here since the 80s or the 90s, it's time to retire. Unfortunately, we can't work for 50 years. So we've actually have 174 cadets, one graduating on Thursday, a class graduating on Thursday. So we have another 60 in different stages of the recruitment procedures, but the last couple of schools, we were losing people, like the mayor just said, to Sugar Land, to Rosenberg, because it was just more money. But now the reverse effect, we hope, again, no guarantees, we hope that we can attract other police officers. So be the blue, be HPD, right? So that's my message to the teams across the county. So we're very fortunate. Thank you, Mayor, for the 60 or 70-hour work weeks, right? So it's been one thing I didn't add that you didn't mention out of our office, our budget and finance branch within HPD is also coming back to Big City. The duplicity of work was part of my process, and there's going to be some more different. There's going to be some challenges, but we'll make those decisions for the betterment of the office and the entirety of the city. So thank you for your question.
And let me emphasize, it's not how many officers you have, I've learned, it's how you implement them, how you put them with technology and other agencies and get more for that number of officers. Anything else?
Mayor, do you anticipate any reductions in force over the next year?
Of what?
Layoffs.
It's not, we're going through reorganization. We're looking for efficiencies. But this budget does not anticipate laying off folks in the traditional previous administration's actions. No. The retirement incentives really address those that were ready to retire. And it's helping us with our efficiencies, certainly our budget demands. So, no, I don't anticipate layoffs. But like I told the reporter a moment ago, we don't take anything off the table. But that would be the very, very last thing that I do. I do not anticipate it. It's not in our plans. All right, thank y'all.
Good job.